Meet me.
Humans are truly foolish. I just feel sorry for them. Tell me, what do you need?
Alright, welcome back guys to another Epic 7 Hero preview. Today we're going to talk about Politis. When they had the silhouette, everyone was trying to guess what it was. No one had any idea. And it's a new waifu with two really creepy robot heads. I do know the skills already, but I haven't watched this video yet, but I did read the skills. But we're going to go over it together because my guild was going crazy over this hero. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to look at her stats. I'm going to let you watch this crap on your own. I don't care about the backstory. So Politis is a fire mage, Gemini. I believe that's the same as Fire, Ball, and Cezanne. So kind of on the slower end, but a lot of built-in effectiveness. So clearly they want you to build her with some effectiveness so she can land her debuffs. But otherwise, same stats as Fireball. So now let's watch the skills, because that's what you guys will care about, and then we'll discuss what impact this hero will have on the meta. So they start with her S2 first. Let's just watch it first as usual. So she makes a clone of herself, and then she whips them. So let's read this. When the enemy is not an elite or boss monster, so basically a PvP ability, reduce the effect of combat readiness increases granted to the enemy by 50%. Pretty huge. This effect does not stack with other passive effects, blah blah blah. Activates Tranquility when an enemy uses a non-attack skill. Can only activate once every 2 turns. Attacks all enemies, decreases buff durations by 1 turn before increasing combat readiness of the caster by 30%. So right off the bat, the CR counter is obviously meant to be against cleave teams, right? Because, ALOTs will only bump by 50%. Politica will bump by, 10%? CDom will bump by 10%. Basically, it's neutering CR bump skills. And this reminds you a lot of what other hero? Elena, right? So they're both kind of playing a similar role. Elena gets bumped up and gives the whole team invincibility, but she doesn't stop the CR push from the other team. You just have to pray that she cuts all of them. This hero, in contract, reduces their CR push and also lets her cut and takes away, decreases their buff durations by 1 turn and does a little damage and boosts her up. So let's go on to her other skills so we can talk about her whole kit together. So this is her S3. Let's see what she does here. So first I guess it's going to show the S2 because F-Clary just used a non-attack skill. So Politis does that, and now she's doing her S3, which looks pretty awesome. So nothing spectacular about her damage, but she's clearly a debuff build, so that's fine. So now let's read this. Attacks all enemies with alien technology, with a 100% chance at max mola to decrease hit chance and make them unable to be buffed for 2 turns. So with this, her kit makes perfect sense, right? This is clearly an anti-cleave ability. You're going to blind their whole team, and you're going to apply unable to be buffed because cleave teams rely on things like crit buff, attack buff, greater attack buff, increased crit damage buff. None of those are going to be able to land because they have unable to be buffed. And that also explains her S2, right? The decreased buff durations by 1 turn, because the cleave teams, even if they have immunity, it's going to strip it off of them, and then she's going to apply all of these unable to be buffed and decrease hit chance. And now all your cleavers are blinded and they can't get attack buff, so it really locks them down. So that's pretty awesome. Let's just go over her S3, her S1 finally. It's going to look basic, so we could do that quick. Here we go. Alright, she bonks them with a doll. Pretty basic. What does it do? Max Mola, 5%, 50, 40% chance to stun for one turn. And she can soul burn it for an extra turn, but it costs 20 souls. That's pretty typical for an extra turn. But pretty solid S1. I mean, stun is an incredibly annoying debuff. 40% is a bit low, so you're never going to be able to really rely on it. But that's fair because stun is probably one of the strongest debuffs you can land. So before we talk about her whole kit, let's talk about her artifact. Knowledge Seed, mage exclusive. Let's just look at max. We'll just assume people max it. Upon receiving lethal damage, has a 100% chance to grant all allies except for the caster a random buff for 2 turns. This seems like a pretty crappy artifact, to be honest, guys. Because I'm assuming, it'd be okay if this applied to anyone on your team. She just carried it and you bring Arbiter and you get Arbiter to proc it. But if she legitimately has to die, I mean, your team's already neutered, and depending on what buff you get, like some of them are really not that important. Like imagine you lost a hero and your whole team gets increased crit hit resistance. It's like whatever, and it can only activate once. There's probably some very specific use case where this might be useful, but in general, I mean, she's a mage. So even on her, you're going to pass up Taga Hells or Abyssal or Violin. So many great mage artifacts for something that doesn't even do anything unless you die. I think this is pretty garbo. That's my initial impression. I could be wrong, but right off the bat, I'm not seeing any devastating use case for this like you sometimes see with other artifacts. So, the thing you guys are going to want to know now that we've discussed all of these is she a must pull? Again, this is Smilegate doing, trying to make RTA more interesting. For new players who are not interested in RTA, this is a super easy skip because I don't think this hero is necessary at all in Arena or Guild Wars. This is very clearly meant to be an RTA hero to give people more options against cleave teams. So if you're not interested in RTA, and from what I hear from people, at least like 70-80% of the population doesn't care about RTA because they think it's a scam and just a whale fest, then just dodge this hero because you're not going to need this in your kit. Now, if you do RTA seriously, the thing about cleave is I think a lot of people already have that are high up decent options against cleave, but I think this will be a great one. Some people are going as far as to say this hero is the death of cleave. I think that's a little overstated because if that does turn out to be the case, you know what they're going to do? They're going to ban this and then they're going to pre-ban FCC or something, and it'll be the same. I mean, there's already plenty of heroes that cleavers find annoying, like Teaser and Arbiter, Crayon. They'll find a Celine. They'll find some way around it. They always do. So let's think about what this counters and what this does not counter. So the thing that people understand, so this is going to be devastating against crappy cleavers, right? Because I'm going to separate this to crappy cleavers and really good cleavers, because crappy cleavers typically have like 1 or 2 CR pushes, and they have attackers that are extremely slow. So that if a 50% drop on the CR is going to stop them from going first, and it's going to completely neuter them. But top tier cleavers are actually quite fast. Everything around them is quite fast. Like their CDoms will be like 190, 200. Like if they're bringing Tomoka, it's going to be like 240. So even a 10% push is probably going to bring them to the front. So against something like Flitica or Cerise initiating on you, right, with a CDom, yeah, I mean, she's not going to trigger the S2, and what they're probably going to do is instead of S3ing with the CDOM, they're going to just burn and kill the Politis without S3ing with CDOM, and then basically just keep going. And actually, because CDOM gets an extra turn from her S3, like they don't cut, they'll probably just eat this damage and then just kill the Politis if she's going to get an extra turn. And if she's not going to get an extra turn, just ignore her and do her normal rotation. Against Alots, 50%. So it's going to decrease it by 50%. But again, unless your DPS is really slow, it's still going to push them to the front, right? So if they have a really fast Politis, it might still cut, right? Because if your DPS is at like 50% and the Politis is at 80% and you Oxalots boost a DPS, then Politis will cut and screw you up royally. This requires that your Politis be quite fast, though. So I think against Oxalots, Politis might actually be really, really good, but we already had like Selene and stuff. So I think against Oxalots, it's going to be pretty devastating. Like an Oxalots team might have to ban this out, but I think Flitica and Cerise initiating teams might be able to get away with just ignoring this if they're paired with CDom. Again, they could just blow Politis up before she does anything, or just ignore her if the rest of the team was able to cut. So again, there's a lot of cleave teams that are not reliant on Oxlots, and yeah, I mean, I think she's definitely going to impact the meta because there are some people who use Oxlots regularly, and they're probably going to hate this hero. But the people that don't, I don't think they'll mind this all that much. And also, again, if they pre-ban FCC, because that's a standard cleaver pre-ban, right? They'll ban FCC every time. It kind of telegraphs what they're trying to do. And if they are scared of Politis, they'll just ban her in the ban phase. And if they can outspeed you, they can still do their normal stuff. Now, maybe you can do something like pick both Politis and Elena. And if you have them both built pretty fast, that might be pretty devastating. But it all comes down to drafting and all comes down to options. So I think she's definitely a very powerful anti-cleave option. So if you're serious about RTA, I think you should definitely have her in your kit, guys. I think she's definitely going to have a big impact on the meta. I think I will personally build her for this reason, just to have one more option against cleavers, because when you go up against a cleaver, you just want to stack the deck with annoying things. Like if I go into a cleave match, I'm going to pick like Kayron, T-Surin, Arbiter, FCC. If I had an Elena, I'd pick an Elena. And if I had this now, I'd pick this too. Sometimes I'll draft Selene. So it's just another option. Because once you get high up in RTA, you're going to realize that the key to success is options. You want to be able to draft as many things as possible that the other guy finds irritating. And if you're able to get 2 or 3 people on the deck that they consider to be must bans, you dramatically increase your chance of victory. So TLDR, if you don't care about RTA, she doesn't matter at all. If you're very, very serious about RTA, she might be a must pull. I don't think she's completely impossible to counter for cleave like some people are saying. As I discussed before, I think depending on what cleave you pick, there are workarounds, but it doesn't change the fact that she's a very hard counter to certain cleave comps and it limits their options, and just having the option is enough to win you more matches than you would if you didn't have the option. So I think she's definitely a very, very solid pickup for high-end RTA. So anyways, share what you guys think in the comment section below. These are just my thoughts on this hero. If for anyone who skipped to the end, again, if you don't care about RTA, skip. If you care about RTA, go and get her. So thanks for watching, and until next time, peace out, boys.